So welcome to Teachers Teaching Teachers. This is a very informal conversation. We're going to sit on both sides of the table, learn together. We're going to focus on Stacy Calloway's work with 8th graders, and she'll describe that in a second. But we're going to frame it in a larger project that Andrea Zellner is doing, and she'll describe that. Let's quickly start with some introductions. Lori, this might be your first time here, so we get to ask you to go first.
Sure. Okay. Hi, I'm Lori Asaf. I'm a professor at Texas State University outside of Austin, Texas. I've been associated with NWP since 1989 and was a director, and I am going to be taking over my directorship in Central Texas Writing Project. Anyway, all that to say, I'm super excited to be here and learn with you all. Thank you.
Cool. And I met Lori because she's interested in AI and reading. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's very fair to say. Yeah.
So I thought this was an appropriate time to come in here. Jack, do you want to go next?
Hey everyone, Jack Memmerstein. I come with Christina, who has all the credentials, and I just find this stuff really fascinating and really appreciate the work you do.
Cool, welcome. Debbie, why don't you go next, and David.
I've been a school librarian for most of my life, but I've done a lot of curriculum development, and I'm currently coaching teachers and librarians in various instructional stuff. So that's the short course.
Cool. David? And then Christina. Oh, you're muted, David. Looks like you're talking, but you're muted. Oh, you'll work. There you go. Oh, no. I don't know what's going on. Okay. We'll get to that. So, Chris Sloan, do you want to say hello? Christina, go ahead. You say hello first. Christina, you're muted, I hope.
I am muted.
Okay.
Sorry. Hi,
okay.
everyone. This is Christina. I work for the National Writing Project in Philadelphia, next door to Jack.
Chris Sloan, good to see you.
Hello.
You got lost somewhere in Kuma space last week. You're welcome.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Chris Sloan, and I teach in high school. I teach high school journalism and English and media production in Salt Lake City, Utah.
David, can you talk yet?
I think I can. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yep, perfect.
Great. I was a long-time English teacher for many years at the start of my career. Then I moved into technology and had the pleasure of working with the National Writing Project on tech integration and literacy work, and that got me in touch with Paul Allison and Andrea Zellner and others, and I've been following the intersection of tech and literacy for a long time, and this is just one more expression. So I've been happy to join this group and continue these conversations.
Okay, and I am Paul Allison, and one of the things I've been doing over the last 2.5 years is convening this group and trying to figure out how AI can sit on top of a social annotation space. I'm trying to say that really quickly because what I want to say is that some of the writing partners that we can point to and show and talk about how we do it quickly tonight, this is a bigger view tonight than last week. We looked at one really in detail, have been developed by teachers and students over the last 2.5 years. And Stacy Calloway is bravely jumping in here.
Yeah.
Not terribly familiar with writing partners yet. Teaches 8th graders. Do you want to briefly introduce yourself, and then we'll go to Andrea to get the bigger frame.
Okay. All right. Well, as you just said, Paul, I teach 8th grade English language arts at the International Technology Academy, and we've been using this unit or this module called Wit and Wisdom and the units are really lengthy. But at the end, I'm using module 3, and it's called "What is Love." I thought that this would be a great way to introduce this to the students, because ultimately they want them to learn how to write an argument essay, use evidence, and learn how to make claims, and also add commentary. And so initially with writing partners, I was, working on some things with All Quiet on the Western Front. And then of course with pacing, I knew that I needed to make sure that I get this done, because, as luck would have it, I contacted Paul, and I also sent a message to Andrea, and I was like, oh my goodness, thank goodness that, they're kind of helping me along. So we started with A Midsummer Night's Dream, and students have been doing a lot of notice and wonders. That's something that's done in this particular module. And so we're trying to get them familiar with the characters. And I don't know if, and I want to make sure I'm pronouncing this correctly, because I always do this. Is it Andrea, right? Or Andrea? Because
I say it Andrea.
it's Andrea.
Let's-
Okay, good.
I
Because I also have I have 3 other people.
I know everybody says it different, but I'm not gonna. I appreciate it, but I also everyone says it different.
Keep talking, Andrea, and Stacy, we'll get back to you.
Chris Sloan, don't look. I am repping the other institution that we did not attend together. U of M. I just was there, and they gave me this nice sweatshirt for talking to their students.
It's quite all right. I speak to both sides.
I went to both, so I'm obviously from Michigan. Otherwise, we wouldn't be making our Michigan State U of M jokes. And I work for an intermediate school district. In fact, I used to be assigned 100% to Pontiac, which is where I first met Stacy. But now I work with all of our 28 school districts. It's about 208,000 students, about 5,000 educators. And because of where I'm situated, I have access to resources, and I can have half-baked ideas and call them a pilot and talk people into funding them. So that's what we did here. I was doing a lot of work with districts trying to figure out like guidance kind of stuff, and they weren't asking the kids how they were using AI. And so I really wanted to engage with a project-based learning unit where kids explore the question of like, how do we influence the way AI is used in our school and community. And the whole unit is being piloted by a number of classrooms, but it was sort of written for 9 through 12. While Stacy applied to it, she got wind of it and applied to it and said, well, can I go a little off the script here? So, and I said, you know what, that's real. That's real, because we can have these beautiful project-based learning units. And the context is such that you really can't get at it. So how do we still build those literacies where we're inviting kids into the space to grapple with how they learn best with AI in the space? In the context of a program like in Wisdom, I think it's an interesting enough question. And so that's how we partnered, and we were able to partner with Paul and David to get writing partners for all the students. And so here we are really just piloting and seeing what's possible.
Stacy, say a little more about what your project is, and not don't try to represent wit and wisdom and the whole thing.
Okay.
But say what you're doing. Yeah.
So I think, to start off first, the fact that you were able to upload A Midsummer Night's Dream, each act, and the students are able to read it. At first, they needed a little bit of reinforcement because, of course, the language is quite different from what they're used to. But we, at first I had them just doing that, but they also have the book in front of them. And so on the left-hand side, it shows, and I brought that too, even though you can't see it, but it shows on the left
screen and show some, show what you're talking about as you're talking. But,
okay.
But don't worry about it. You keep talking. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll keep talking. I'm trying to see where I have the little small book. Let me just see if I brought that. Yes. So I'll just pull it up here. So this is a small book of A Midsummer Night's Dream. And on the inside of it, on the left-hand side, it's really, I hate to say this, but this is really almost like as if it's their Bible, because that way they get to look at it. Like on this side, I don't know if you guys could see that, but it shows a lot of the vocabulary. And it also shows like line by line, if there's something that they're unfamiliar with, then it'll tell them what it means. Like on, let's see, line 112, it says, or actually this one, 122, by no means we may extenuate. Some of them weren't sure of it. So it shows them an example of it. And then from there, they were able to just basically tell me what they noticed. So they make observations, and then they also question, some of the things. And so inside of it, I think this is what Paul is showing right now. For each paragraph, they're going through it. And I told them, I said, you don't have to do it for every single one. But the kids went in and said, what are some key ideas? Or each of them responded back to one another. So it was kind of cool that they were, getting some dialogue between each class, because lofty goals, I wanted to do not only one class, but I wanted to do all three of them, since I teach 3 8th grade classes. What was the other thing that you had, Paul? You also mentioned that.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
I know when I popped into your class at one point on the phone, and some of the kids were surprised that they were seeing each other's comments.
Yes.
But so how's that going?
They're enjoying it. As a matter of fact, some of them are friends with some of the students in other classes. So I've had them literally asked to leave their other classes to come in, to pop in to see what the others are doing. And then the other thing was to incorporate AI. They went to Improv AI to ask whether or not the question or the comments they made, if it was relevant to that particular topic. So some of them were typing in some of what Hippolyta said, or something that Hermia said, and just, getting some feedback from there. I don't know whether or not you can show some of that, but it's been pretty interesting for the past 2 days.
Let's take a pause and see if anybody has any questions that we can answer. Just sort of as we go, or we can keep going. But just wanted to say, on the table is a public version of the play.
Mm-hmm.
The stuff we're looking at here is all private, and each class has their own private version of it. But if you want to go play around at some point, you can do that. Talk a little more, Stacy, about your goals. I think it's a good start, but what are your,
So I actually wrote a couple of things down, because in this particular section, even though I know I'm trying to stick to the script, because we literally have, I want to say, about 3 weeks left. And so I'm trying to kind of, crunch some things together. So ultimately, I want them to write an argument essay that asserts whether or not, one particular character. And that's another thing too. I want them to focus, we're reading through it, but then they're going to start getting some evidence and really, I don't want to say fall in love with one character, but I want them to be able to do that. So that way, when it comes time to answering the question, did the character choose the person they loved at the end of this novel? And then they have to attribute that to evidence and, make a claim. And also each time as they're going through it, just to make sure that they're staying, intrigued by this whole thing, I have it where I want them summarizing some of the events and really talking about each character. So we've gone, I'm thinking whether or not I'm leaning toward using a little bit of course hero after each scene, just to make sure that we're listening to them, we're getting it, just for them to have that aha moment. But that's pretty much where we are right now. And just talking about this particular topic with love, it's really, I wish I had recorded the first thing they did, which was the welcome, because I started this with playing the song Love. It's with Rihanna and Future. And so, I put it, but it was all just the lyrics, and it was only about maybe 30 seconds of it, but it was just to say, what's the recurring theme? And they just kind of popped up, they just kind of, got interested in that. But the welcome was, if you were to explain to an alien, they just got off, they just came from the sky or what have you, and they landed on the planet Earth, what would you say? And so that got them, really talking as their 13 and 12-year-old selves. Okay, what is this? So that was the initial thing, just to get them talking and writing.
So Stacy, let me Thank you for the rich description of your classroom
Yep.
and what your kids are doing, and
Okay.
you've touched on some of it. One of the things that Andrea has pointed out is that one of the things that teachers have to deal with when they're dealing with AI on writing partners is both understanding what happens in a social annotation space, which your students seem to be navigating.
Mhm.
At least you've started to do that, and then introducing AI in. And so it's a kind of a complicated 3D chess thing going on here, right? And so you've had your students look or use the improv teammate a little bit. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
Have you thought about how you want to use AI? And then I can show you. I spent some time this week. I looked at what your students were seeing when they hit Ask AI, and I said, "Oh my God, we got to organize this." So I've done some organizing, and I want to show you that so
Okay.
that you can think about it a little bit. But none of this showing is like, you should do this. It's just like trying to lay out some options. Is that fair?
Okay. That's fair.
Yeah.
I think what I really want is I want for them to just, even if they start out writing just one paragraph, just a one paragraph argument about, and I think I sent you something about that, about whether or not love is strange or if it's true, and then support it with the reason and support it with some of the evidence from the text. So that way I can see, are they starting to get the concept? And then I want them to go back to AI, whether or not it's improv, or there was another one you mentioned, just so that they can see if they're on the right track, whether or not they can start with asking some of those questions. Am I using, are my thoughts, am I using the right evidence? Should I use more transitions? What should I do? So I think that's where I am right now. I know that they have to do a full-blown essay, but just to kind of start them out each day, maybe, come up with the question, because I have different things that will support them on their end of module task. But it's each day I need to make sure that that they're getting something or they're adding to it. Because I think today they actually went back to the lesson that we did that first day just to see whether or not, okay, now I'm getting, because we had a mini workshop on annotations. And so they went back to see, okay, did I ask the right things? Did I do this correctly? Not to say that they're trying to be perfect, but they're understanding now what I'm looking for.
Yeah. Andrea has her hand up.
Okay.
Did you do that on purpose?
I did it on purpose. Now I'm gonna raise it or lower it.
Okay.
Stacy, are you thinking of using the writing partners as thinking partners to do some sense making around the actual Shakespeare?
About just about well, I guess I could do that. I don't know whether or not you could share what you did earlier today. Like, you sent me something and I was like, that's exactly where I'm leaning. I don't know if I can open it. If I do that, okay, you guys could still see me, right?
Yeah.
Something Andrea sent you? What'd you
Yeah.
send
No,
her?
I think Paul must have sent it to you. I didn't send you anything today.
You know what? Okay, so it just said you would like my thoughts on a document. It was in Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Was that you or who was that?
It was Paul.
So,
Okay.
Let's go there. There are three different kinds of things that could happen here.
Mhm.
Kickstarter is, and I'll just identify this without showing too much, but I think we can talk it through.
Okay.
Kickstarter, what it does, what I did with that was test one of your students. I took all of her comments on the first act, and I went in as her, and I copied them, right? Just all her comments, and then I took some of the questions from the unit, assuming about characters and so forth, and asked the Kickstarter AI to look through all of my notes and give me some ideas about how to do this, right? Give me some ideas, some questions. Should we look at that? Is that fair?
Absolutely, because that was another thing for me where I wanted to go into their end of module. They do like these CFUs, which are check for understanding. and I was going to
Uh-huh.
pull some of the questions and then have them, use some of their notes. So this is ideal. So sorry, I didn't mean to attribute that all to to
Don't
Andrea.
be sorry. No, how would you know where things are coming from? They're flying at you. No,
Right.
it's fine. I wish I had this set up. I don't. It'll take me a minute to find it.
Okay. I
But
was
it's
about to
okay. Go ahead. You keep talking.
So I just see just to go with that, it says Kickstarter with Andrea's ITA edits, the questions for
Mhm.
exploration. How do the characters in Act 1 of A Midsummer Night's Dream express their feelings about love? And it says here, and this is the part where you're getting help from AI, right? It says this question
I
would
found
help
it.
you.
Okay, good.
Okay,
Go
did you
ahead.
find it?
You keep talking. Yeah, keep talking.
Okay,
I'll
this
just pop
question
by.
would help you explore the different ways each character shows love, happiness, jealousy, or frustration. And that's some of the things that the students were writing. They said it's interesting because you've noticed both excitement from Theseus, because they said that they noticed that Theseus was excited about getting married. And then they also noticed the jealousy from Helena because she was jealous that Demetrius loved, he was giving his attention to Hermia instead of to him. So the fact that they're getting it, and then quotes from the notes where it says Theseus is excited for his wedding to Hippolyta. Helena doesn't think she's pretty, and she's jealous that Demetria likes Hermia's looks. And so that I thought that was really great. The fact that you're using some of their notes, and then AI is responding to that. The other thing, why do some characters?
Stacy, I just want to make sure everyone understands it, and if people ask questions, if you don't, please interrupt. What the Kickstarter is designed to do is take a series of notes that annotations. I think she wrote, I don't know, 9 of them or so. It doesn't matter too much, but and she put that in one box, and then in the other box she said, what did she ask? Here are my comments for Act 1. What do you see? And what it's designed to do is to give her back 5 questions and then some reasons for why those questions fit. Does that make sense?
It does. But I did also ask them after we spoke, I said for them to try to do it by line or by paragraph, because remember we talked about that when it's all general, we don't know where, which section she got it from. So hopefully she was able to correct that. So
yeah,
that's what I also want to see. Where can I make a comment to say, okay, can you do XYZ? That's what I want to do with each of them.
So you can go in and reply to every comment they make, right?
Okay.
You could also go in here
Mm-hmm.
and reply. I can show you some of that. Just want to show you quickly that the Kickstarter, the next thing it does, it asks them to, and this gets a little complicated, but it asks them to choose one of these 5 that they want to write about. It then pretends to be a writer and gives them ideas for how they get started writing. And it moves out to, and this is like the maps, and suggests a way to get started. And then so it's sort of setting up, taking from your notes to a more completed piece of or a more clear assignment for what you want to work on.
Okay.
But giving agency to the student. Now, again, I'm going to go back and say, we're going to show you a bunch of stuff and you're going to decide, you know what, I need to know more about how you did that Kickstarter thing, and so I can help my kids do that. But so just sort of put a pin in that, and we'll go back to other things. What are you thinking? Does that sound right?
That sounds right. But I definitely, if I'm looking at this, it's, especially with the Kickstarter, that's exactly what I want them to do. I want them to be able to use some of their notes, because that way they can go in and I can show them how to incorporate the evidence into their essay.
Okay. I'm wanting to take a pause and see if anybody has thoughts, questions, issues.
I'm going to ask a very dumb question.
Good.
Which is, how did you copy the notes? How did you literally copy that? Did you just sort some way, or
on the left side? Just there is a button. Thanks for asking. There is a button for sorted. So when you're on, you can sort, and then it sorts into either by last name or first name.
Oh.
So you find your first name, and then you just copy everything that's in your section.
Okay, thank you.
And you could put that into a new document, or you could put it into the chat. Different options there. There are plenty of options. Let me, oh, sorry, that was one good question. Anybody else have? Can you see what I just opened? If I go to share nearby.
I just see the screen with us on it.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Why can't you see this? All right, let me try it a different way. Hold on.
So my other question to you,
Yeah, good.
these count as artifacts, right? For what Andrew's doing, so that way we're doing a PBL.
Yes, we're gonna try and like name the study. So I think Stacy, for that part of the pilot, what I would love to hear at the end of this, aside from your curricular goals that you're after, is if there's any chance for the kids to do a reflection on what it was like to work with the writing partners and AI, what advice maybe they have for other kids. One of the other pilot teachers had his kids came up with all these prompts. They were working in AP, and so they had found all these prompts that really worked with the writing partners, and then they shared them with the other class so that they would benefit from their learning.
That's nice.
And I just thought that was so lovely to think about, like what really worked for us. Like, oh, you have to write a little bit more, or like explain your notice and wondering with like more than 2 sentences, then you get better feedback, or whatever it is that they find out. And I think also having them reflect on like how it helped them or didn't help them in their process as a writer would be really great artifacts for them. And then for you, just having your reflections. So for everyone, this is part of the pilot. She's asking about the artifacts. So as part of their commitment to the pilot, they are meant to give me artifacts so that we can share. We're going to publish them from our county-wide as open educational resources as part of a larger group of case studies, so that people can see like what are the ways that people are going after and cracking this nut and that kind of thing. So any of those kind of artifacts are great, because I think even though you're not doing the project-based learning unit as intended, you can still pick up the goals of it, which are to increase learner agency, to help them feel like they have a say in how AI is used with them and for them and by them. And so I really think that that's the magic. It kind of does, I'm agnostic to the other stuff. So the unit that I presented to you is just one frame. And I'm excited to hear how a different frame might provide us some other insights that other people can pick up and run with.
It's interesting too, because I have ESL tutors in each class, and each of them have come up to me after class and said, "Oh my God, like this is amazing," because they see that the kids are working, and they see that I can see that they're working. And then Paul has been amazing too, because sometimes I've got Paul where we're talking it through, and so that's amazing.
That community of practice for everyone. And I think for your tutors too, letting them know that there's some translanguaging opportunities here too. So if a kid switches over to Spanish, they can speak in Spanish and then switch back to English. Like that, I think is a really nice affordance too, that can be really supportive of their learning, especially when you have English learners in the space.
And I want to mention just one more thing, because I know Paul is like, "Oh my God, be quiet." But my fourth hour does it first. And then after they're finished working, as I said before, some of these kids who were in that class, they'll ask to leave another teacher's class to come in to help their buddies. They're like, "Hey, do it this way. We found that if we worked it out." So that's why it's amazing. I mean, sense of community, they're really.
That's pretty cool that your school works that way.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And Stacy, like if you made like an anchor chart with some of those things that they're naming for each other, like that would be really, anytime you're going to make that visible for everyone, so that even if I don't have a friend who's coming from my into my 6th hour to help me, then those kind of anchor charts and stuff are really beautiful artifacts to share forward.
So one of the kids, he acted like he was the teacher for the day. We froze the screen And so he wrote on it like what they needed to do. And I'm hoping I still, like when I turned it off, I'm hoping I still have that, but that could be part of it too. So, okay, I will consider doing that. It's just good to see that this kid is getting a pass from each, and is not to skip his classes. He was like, hey, I just finished all of my work, but my buddy was in 5th hour. Now I have one in 6th hour. And so, our teachers are amazing in that sense, because they know when the kids are excited about writing, that's good.
So I'm sharing screen now, right? Does everyone
Yeah.
see the screen? Okay, and I'm on as Aaron. And I just want to show you, it's a little, well, I'll just do it and then you can complain about it afterwards. All right. When a student comes on and they select writing partners, right? They select AI. And this is so much more organized than it was a week ago, but it's still in progress. This is what they see, right? And it's what Stacy, you're trying to kind of make clear to them. And I've figured out a way that we can take some of this away if you're not going to go there for this unit. All right.
Hey,
but I
Paul?
want to show you what's possible. Yes.
If you're showing the pull down menu, remember we can't see that pull down menu.
You can't see the pull down menu?
Yeah, good call, Chris. Thanks. I wasn't sure if that was the point.
Yep, I was. Okay. So I'll direct you, and I think you'll be able to find it. So we'll do this another way.
Okay.
Or I'll just describe it, I guess. If you go with your cursor to the upper left-hand corner, you'll find Ask AI Choices for Stacy's 8th graders. So it's off the table, go up, maybe make the screen a little bigger. And if you click on that, you should see a document that comes up like that. And I have this on my computer, but I can't figure out how to present it.
Okay, where is it again?
It's in the upper left-hand corner.
Left-hand corner, okay.
Of this room. And there's a sign that says Ask AI.
I hope I'm clicking
Choices
right.
for Stacy's 8th graders.
Yeah, so that's the pull down you were trying to show up there. Yeah.
That's the pull down I'm trying to show. Here's what I'll describe.
Yeah. Okay, I've got it.
And I'm watching time and trying to think about this. You mentioned how they are learning some of the vocabulary stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There is a section now on this pull down that comes up for them that says reading for understanding. And in that, there are 4 writing partners, right, that we've developed over the years. 2 of them are about words and vocabulary, right? Just to say this. One is about literary analysis. The other is text to self. You put some information. You could take a speech and say, I have no idea what's going on here. Say a little bit about yourself, or you could say more than that too, whatever you want to say, and it would give you back. But the vocabulary tutor, and I'm saying this because there's no way that you would necessarily, know it. The vocabulary tutor, they could take a line or they could take a speech and say, hey, help me with the difficult words here. And then what it does is it does a think a lot. It doesn't give them definitions. It does things like, did you notice that third word? It shows how somebody figures out words in context, right? So the vocabulary, if kids want to play with that one, that would be good. The word lookout, you would do it before you started a speech that you're struggling on, and it identifies some words and tells you what to think about for them. So those are 2 sort of vocabulary ones that would support you as a reader, right?
Yeah.
Now, and we could spend more time looking at that if you want to another time, or even tonight if you'd like. I want to identify over here on the right side of this, there are 2 kinds of simulators, right? One kind of simulator, because I haven't heard you say this yet, I'm thinking we should just take this off unless you want to play with it. Okay. But a lot of teachers deal with Deborah Appelman's critical lens stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So there are, again, developed over the years, and we've kind of organized them here, that kids could choose to look at the text from a psychological point of view, a feminist point of view, a dystopian point of view, right? So those are available to them. And or you could say, you know what, I'm not going to go there this time with this Shakespeare. Let's move that out and we can do that. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. I think I'm gonna pause on that one. I did see it. I saw it. I was trying to show them something about annotation, and it showed how to highlight different things, and it had the feminist
Yeah.
one. Yeah. And so I think based on the time frame given, I think I'm not gonna go that route.
But I think, and then the stakeholders deals with Andrea's questions about not that other project.
Mhm.
We developed that in that, right, having to do with AI enthusiasts, AI. So that one could maybe be used when they do some reflection. Want to spend more time? What? Go ahead.
No, that's what I was going to say.
Thank you for interrupting.
With the reflection for the artifacts, I think that would be ideal. The ones who are enthusiastic about it, and then the ones who are kind of skeptical, like, just still leery after using it for the next couple of weeks.
Now, and I think we could spend some time actually doing some of this. This is kind of fresh, but we've done it before. We did it with the Odyssey, having various gods available to the students as they were reading it, right, to interact with them. So I've created 7, I think, characters so far, and we could create more. And we now have a
I
really
think this
cool
is so fun, Paul. So can
Good,
you say
I'm
more
glad you
about the
interrupted, yeah.
Odyssey? Did the kids like it? Did they do it? Did they use it? What happened with
They
the
loved
Odyssey?
it. Yeah, like they were able to say to Poseidon, "Why did you do that?" You know, and it answered them back as Poseidon. But yeah, so let me just say, I mean, some of the curriculum that from Wit and Wisdom asked them to, describe a character and so forth. That's great, but maybe with AI, they could go and interview the character and say, "What do you think?
Oh my
What
God.
is your opinion about love?" Right?
Okay, so I've got an idea. So my
Okay, good.
journalism background, and I was excited to see that Chris does that too. I have one where I want them to interview the characters, like to make it into like a talk show. That was the other part. Okay, where did I put it? Okay, bear with me while I find this, because I said I need for them to learn how to ask questions and interview them. And it's supposed to be where it'll be 3 to 4 people in a group, and they're going to be out there like the talk show, have a panel of people interviewing Hermia to say, how is it that you have different relationships going on with Demetrius and Lysander? And then also talking to her about why disobey your father. I just need to find where it is, but that was, I think, oh my gosh, this is good, because at the same time, this is something that they can use for their argument essay. Where is it? Okay, so you guys talk. I'm just going to find where I put it, because I know
I'm sharing screen again. I think you'll be able to see this time. Like this is right on the. So I'll show you how to get to these, but it's right on the front page. It's Midsummer Night's Dream. Comes up to the characters here, right? And so let's play with one. Who do you want to talk to? You decide, Stacy. I know you're looking at something.
I think we should talk to Hermia.
Okay.
Why is she being disrespectful to her father? Disobeying him.
Okay. So we can come to here, right? And we can start a conversation. And can you pose that question a little more carefully for me as I type? Why don't you respect your father more? Or?
Yes. Why aren't you following your father's wishes? I literally clipped this. I put a clip on this where I wrote it.
As this is spinning, I do want to identify, and we have a quote unquote Pathfinder writing partner that you can put in any name or any character, and it actually creates this simulator for you. And then it asks you to find some text it asks you if it's a historical character, you find an interview with that person. In this case, I was able to find all of the speeches, right, from the play and just drop those speeches in. So what it's doing, I meant to say I was going to talk about hits. I didn't hit continue. So what it's doing is it's sifting through all the speeches and answering your question, right?
Wow.
So could we get a reader? Can
So
anybody see this? Yeah.
mine is stuck on a certain part. Are you sharing your screen with this or no?
I thought it was.
For me, I see character simulators, Aegeus, or maybe it's the way I have it. Let me see if I can move it over. Okay,
So
yeah.
I see it.
You can see
Okay.
it.
Okay,
Would you
so
read
what
it for us? What's Harmonia say back?
Such a hard question, and yet my heart leaps up to answer. I do not follow my father's wishes, for my soul cannot give sovereignty to Demetrius, whom he would have me wed. My love, my heart, nay, my very eyes are set on Lysander. Okay, I'm not going to keep going. That was enough.
Yeah, you get it. You get
That was
it. Go to
good.
the second paragraph, though.
Okay, to bend to Aegeus's rule would be to live in misery, a heaven turned to hell. For every day I see Lysander, the world turns sweet, but Demetrius's suit is bitterness itself. End scene.
Okay. And see, yeah. All right. But also, just to say, where they are doing their annotating, they could also just come out and choose one of the characters to refer to. Like if something happens to one of the characters, they could say, why did, you could interact with the character at that moment. You actually could, I'm sure you can think of ways to use this that are useful.
So I'm trying to figure out where is it? I saw it. Okay.
I just closed it.
Oh, you
so we
okay?
can talk more.
Okay. So how do I get back? Let me exit. I want to exit.
Where are you?
That's what I said. I'm in.
We
I'm
see
under
you right here.
Yeah, I'm under the part where it says Oberon, King of the Fairies Simulator, and it has like critical theory and all of that. I think I'm still in that part. I need
Close
to go
that.
back. Close it?
Close that. Yeah.
Okay.
Upper right-hand corner, there's probably an X.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so there it is. It's closed. Okay.
All right, let's just talk now. So there is some notion here of breaking out possibilities, and just to say the squad, which is up on the wall up in the upper right-hand corner, and the Kickstarter and the improv work whether you're reading or writing. It's sort of why they're called the squad. But these ones that I just showed you, having to do with reading for understanding, vocabulary, sort of comprehension issues, are useful, I think, to kids. And then these character ones can play, and for this unit, you said, I'm not going to do critical theory right now. That's cool. But what are you thinking about possibilities here? Because I haven't thought it through, and it's up to you.
I'm really thinking about, I like the one that you just did, the character simulator, because I had someone come in, and Brad Stabler, I had him come in and he, actually acted the scene out, and it drew them in, right? And so if I can get the kids to read it and ask questions and say, okay, for this particular character, like with Hermia or even Helena, the fact that one of the kids wrote that Helena is not pretty and she's jealous, to ask, why are you jealous? And then to have someone go through and find all of the evidence. That's what that's ultimately, I think that's great. I think that's something that would get them involved. And
by the way, later when they write their essays, they could still have these characters comment on their own essays.
Right, because remember again, they
that
still
would be so fun.
Yeah.
You could be writing your essay, and then Oberon's like,
that,
yeah, maybe rethink that, or I never said that, or something.
And just the fact that they have, they'll have it, they'll have the evidence, they'll be able to go back to whichever line or whichever act, scene. I'm like, that's great. So that's where I see it first. I do like the vocabulary piece as well, because let's say, for instance, if they didn't have the book, you know, it allow them to figure out what it is. But right now I'm really loving the character simulator.
You know, we built that vocabulary one to try to, like, it's a really tricky issue. Like, yes, you could just get the word right defined over here for you, but could you also learn how to figure out what the word is in context? Like, one of the examples I tried was vexation was the hard word,
Mhm.
and it's and the AI said, you know what, that's a hard word. I see the word vex there, and he's making a complaint, so he seems to be upset. So, and anyway, it kind of, it doesn't give the answer, but it
Right.
talks you through how somebody who's figuring out in context they would do it, right? And so the hope is that they would build that ability to do that, right?
That's the hope.
So play with
Yep.
that, yeah.
So just to make sure that I was doing the PBL justice, you know, I started with the entry event, and then the kids did likes and wonders, and like, what do you know? What do you know about what do you know about A Midsummer Night's Dream? What do you know about AI? How to use it? And so I have them, you know, just pretty much putting together just a Google slideshow, just individually, so that I can see what they have. Because once again, in the back of my head, I'm always like, okay, what are the artifacts? And then now it's, you know, getting to add more things. And so that driving question, which I had, you know, like, what is love? But it was a little more detailed than that. The kids actually came up with their own driving questions to make sure that they, you know, to make sure that it resonated with them. Like, what's the whole purpose of this? Because they know that they are doing notice and wonders. They know that they're summarizing events. And then you know, ultimately they know that they're going to write an essay, but they have to keep, you know, checking things off. And so hopefully, you know, I'm still doing that justice by getting them to, you know, do work on the PBL, as well as reading and really trying to understand A Midsummer Night's Dream.
You have a few agendas, Stacy.
I do. But I feel more comfortable with this than I did with the other. I really do. I feel, and that's why I said thank you for jumping on this with me. Because at first I was like, how would you feel if we did XYZ? And you automatically, you know, even though you were going to see the play, you were like, okay, let's do this. So I feel re-energized.
The night Stacy asked me, I was going to see Othello.
Yes.
But I did not get any pictures. I have to apologize.
I know. I asked him. I said, "Okay, if you get to see Denzel or Jake Gyllenhaal, I'm like, okay, you got to get pictures." But I'm glad we were able to get this.
So let's get some feedback from other people.
Mm-hmm.
Questions, thoughts for Stacy?
I've got
I have too much going on.
I've got because my seniors only have 2 days left, so I'm at the end of the year. Ooh. And one of the things I'm thinking about is, Stacy, you know, like, how you gonna manage all the information that's coming at you here? And so, yeah. Paul, I've been thinking lately about, like, and this is way off what Stacy was just talking about, but the idea of a dashboard and information for teacher, like, okay, so they're generating all this stuff, which is amazing. Mm-hmm. It's like, wait, where was that one thing that one kid said? You know, has so-and-so actually been doing anything? You know, stuff like that. So that's enough said there, but that's what I think about now. It's like the stuff that my students have generated.
There are some analytic tools, but they could absolutely use a better dashboard. Yep.
Yeah. So
on top of yep.
That was my point.
Yeah. And that's what I was saying too, just to comment on every single one, because you're right, with all of the different classes, it does get a little overwhelming, but they see that I have it open, and we're constantly, you know, I have an ESL tutor who's working, and I'm constantly, you know, walking around where they're doing it, and then also calling Paul and saying, hey, Paul, this is a lot of stuff. How do we, you know, manage it all? But making sure that they are, you know, getting the work done and that they're enjoying the process. The only thing that I may have kind of a slight a pause is to make sure that when they're writing their argument essay, where where will they get all this information? It's going to be in there where they can easily access it, or should I print materials out for them, or just let them do it online? Like, what are your thoughts? Because each time, that's what they've done today. They back to a lesson that we did on Monday, and then they went back to today's lesson. So they're able to still go back as far as they need to do their what is it, to get feedback and reflections. They can still go back to that, and I can use that as an artifact for right? Can they still access it?
Stacy, one of
Can they
yes.
still?
So one of go. So I just want just a general comment that one of the things AI is really good at is sifting through a lot of data, a lot of notes, right? And finding the themes in those notes and giving them back to us and saying, this is what we think the themes are and this is why. And one of the struggles that we have always had when kids annotate is, and then write something afterwards, is they leave all that rich annotation on the page and then they start again, right? And so one of the solutions, and it has been working, is to learn how to sort, right? And find your comments on each document. And there'll be 5 documents because it's split up into 5 acts, right? Not exactly, but close. And so copy all of your comments into another document and then ask AI to look for themes and thoughts in that. And then they'll still have that detail. They can go back and find it, right? So that step feels important. And you saw the Kickstarter as the example of that. Yeah.
Actually, Paul, I wonder if it's useful to have kids, as long as they're doing that collating, that copying and pasting into one document, I wonder if they ought to be annotating first what they see as the themes that are coming out, and then have AI add to that and say, had you considered, what other themes might I consider that I've seen? The reason why is because I think if we just skip the step of having kids actually respond to themselves, we're skipping that moment of reflection, aren't we? We're skipping the moment of self-awareness of what in one context I said this. Now when I pull it together into a larger body of work, that's another way to step forward into writing.
I think I would agree with you. Our experience though has been that kids, at least high school kids, are willing to say, you know what, I hate that theme. They're wrong about this. You know, that they'll talk back to the AI a little bit. But yes, so where their own reflection comes in, I don't know if it has to be first or after, or and they can run it twice, 3 times. Yeah.
So how do I get
there are
them
lots
comfortable?
of options like that.
So
how do you what?
How do I get them comfortable with doing that? Because I do want them to talk to one another, but also, be respectful, but like, oh, I don't agree with that particular part. Because I haven't seen any of them doing that yet. And does that come?
You mean with each other?
Yes.
Oh.
And I do want them to be comfortable.
I think your question is your answer. You could ask them why.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, they're 8th graders. I don't know. You tell me.
Okay.
It must be tough.
I have a few that I think would be outspoken. I just need to make sure that I do that for each class. And so I will.
You could make it an
will.
assignment, right? What if you said, hey, find something you don't agree with.
Okay.
And comment on that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Stacy, you could use some like sentence starters too to sort of jog them. There's so many good like thinking routines around that, like the 4 C's or the 3 A's or like there's a million of those out there.
Okay. I like that.
You can also ask kids, what would you like from your partner? Would you like a question? Would you like a suggestion? Would you like, so that the receiver is ready for the criticism or the comment or the whatever
Okay.
it is.
And we do have it, and we call that in PBL critical friends. So I just
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
move it up. So okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's like
Yeah.
I notice I have protocol where it might be interesting to invite them to do the I have part, because they could say, "Oh, I noticed that in another part of the play."
Okay.
You know, so you could invite them to do one I like, one I wonder, or I notice, one I wonder, one I have, where they point it out.
Okay.
I want to stay all night, but I have to jump off.
Bye. Others do too, probably. Thank you, Andrea.
Oh, you're
Thanks,
welcome. And Rosa
everyone.
too.
And
Thank
Lori,
you,
thank
guys.
you.
Thank you, Stacy, for sharing your work.
Oh, thank
Before
you.
go,
And hopefully it
Yeah,
wasn't
thanks.
too overwhelming.
That's
I do
great.
have
Great.
one,
Thank you,
sorry, one
Stacy.
quick announcement. So, which is that what's his name? Sift. Mike Calkins. Mike Calkins is coming to visit us next
Caulfield.
week.
Caulfield.
Caulfield.
That's
Calkins.
cool.
Calkins, yeah, that's Lucy Calkins.
All
Sorry.
right, I'm coming
Mike
next week
Caulfield is
too.
coming next week. He couldn't make it at 5 o'clock. He's in California. So it's going to be at 9 o'clock Eastern and 6 o'clock on the West Coast. Okay. So, yeah, we'll send you some information about that.
Thank you
Thank you, guys. Thank you too.
Thanks, everyone.
so much.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Paul. That was really, really good.
Ugh,
I
it's so
really
much.
enjoyed it.
But I like the mess. I don't know. I don't know if anybody else does. But yeah, good. I'm glad you did. Thank you. Thanks for coming.